our webinar, NAMI Mass Advocacy webinar, and I'd like to introduce Monica Luke, who's the chair of the NAMI Mass Advocacy Committee. Monica?
Hi. Hi, everyone. For those of you who are on the webinar on January 23rd, this is actually a repeat recording. We had some audio difficulties, so we're doing this now without, unfortunately, your questions, but we wanted to make sure we did get the content out on the website. So this advocacy training is called Dream Big Together, and it's based on the presentation and activity we did at the NAMI Mass Convention. And the purpose of this is, why are we doing this? Is we have a lot of expertise among our NAMI members across the Commonwealth, and we have a lot of passionate members who have a lot of opinions and are experts in our mental health system in Massachusetts. And we want to listen to everyone. We want to listen to every NAMI member in Massachusetts. We shouldn't just hear what you think and about if you have the opportunity to attend the convention. And we're going to take this information and we're going to translate that into knowledge that we can use to advance our advocacy agenda. So what is a Dream Big Together activity? If you went to the convention, you actually participated in one. We did it in the morning. And we asked everyone to think about and answer this question. What is the one thing you would like to see changed about the mental health system in your community or in the state of Massachusetts that would have a positive impact on yourself or your family, and why? Seems like a simple question, right? But a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about these things. So what are the nuts and bolts to make this happen? The activity is going to work that everyone's going to be asked that question. Everyone's going to come up with an answer for that question. So nuts and bolts around having the opportunity to ask that question is that your affiliate will have to have a conversation about whether or not you want to do the activity. This is not a requirement. This training is to help you do it if you decide you want to do it. We encourage you to do it because we think it's a valuable way to hear from everyone in the affiliates. And you're going to want to plan 40 to 45 minutes for the activity. Now, that's somewhat dependent on how many people you have participating. If you have groups of about 5, then the activity part's going to run 20 to 25 minutes and allow plenty of time for discussion. So this 40 to 45 minutes is sort of like a ballpark idea of how much time you want to set aside on your agenda. And then you need to pick a date, time, and a place. And I would encourage you to consider doing it as part of a regular affiliate meeting. Now, a question came up last night when we did the live webinar where people pointed out that a lot of times to their affiliate meetings, only the board members come. This is meant to be for everybody in your affiliate, all your members. So you might want to do it at your annual meeting if you get greater participation, or you might want to promote one of your regular meetings as being, interesting to everyone and encourage everyone to come because you're going to be running this activity. It's really not necessary to do a special meeting, but if that's the best way to get attendance, and sometimes offering food is a really good way to get attendance, then do that. If you regularly have good participation at your monthly meetings, well, then go ahead and do it as part of that. And that's one of the things that sort of on the number one thing about your affiliate talking about it and figuring out how to do it, you're going to need to figure that out based on sort of the nature and culture of your affiliate. So then how do you run the activity? So now you've got everybody there and you're going to run the activity. You're going to divide your attendees into groups of about 5 to 8. As it happened at the convention, we had about 10 people in each group. That's because there were tables, so it was natural to do it by table. It was kind of an easy way to manage that. And each group will have a facilitator and a timekeeper. Now, one of the handouts that we're sharing as part of this webinar is a handout that explains what the facilitator and the timekeeper do. And I'm going to sort of go through that right now, but also I'll take you through the handout, but you're going to have lots of things in writing to help you. So the facilitator sort of runs the group, and the timekeeper does just what it sounds like. They're going to keep time. And there's sort of 2 opportunities to keep time. One is this first part of the activity, which is Everyone's going to think in silence about the question that I read that you will also have in writing. They're going to think about that question and they're going to write down their answer. Now, the handout also has a list of sort of seed topics, ideas of things people might want to be their topic, but it's not limited to that. It was just a list of ideas. You're going to allow about 5 minutes for that silence, where people are going to write in silence. So why do we do that silently? The primary reason we do that silently is, as humans, if we don't do it silently, what happens is either the first or the second person to speak will have an idea that generates discussion, and everyone will start to talk about that idea. By doing this in silence, we ensure that everybody has the chance to think about it and that everyone's voice will be heard, instead of sort of running with the first or second person who voices their idea. And then the facilitator is going to work with the timekeeper to give 3 minutes to each person in the group, and you're going to go around the group and they're going to share what they wrote down and describe it. That 3 minutes is also uninterrupted. In other words, there's no crosstalk. So the person speaking gets 3 minutes to speak, not be challenged by others. And then everyone fills out the form with their number one topic. If you have extra time at that point, you can have as much crosstalk as you want. You can have discussion and people can talk about, pros and cons. And in fact, if there's time, that's a really great thing to do even before people write down their number one topic, because the thing they thought about and the thing they talked about may no longer be their number one topic after hearing everyone else. This is meant to be a collaborative activity with an interchange of ideas. The reason for controlling who speaks when is just to make sure everyone gets heard. And then a free discussion is encouraged, and sharing of experiences is also encouraged. But by the end of the activity, by the end of your 40 to 45 minutes that you've allotted for this activity, you want everyone who's participated to fill out a sheet with their number one topic as of that moment. And then you, as the facilitator, need to count up those topics and share the results. Now, I'm going to give you a spreadsheet that's a template to help you do that. And you're going to want to report back to your affiliate, and you're going to want to report back to us, because at the NAMI Mass Advocacy team, because we're going to take the input from all of the affiliates and create sort of a mega chart that shows what we heard from at the convention, what we heard from each affiliate, and then how does that aggregate and how does that help to inform our advocacy agenda and our advocacy priorities going forward. Now, one of the things that, I need to be really clear about is we're listening. We want to hear from you, and we want to hear from everyone, whether or not they have the opportunity to attend the convention. But the number one priority, your number one priority, may not turn out to be the actionable number one priority. So there's a combination of, consensus of where there's a lot of interest in an issue, but there's also when is the moment ripe? When are there ways to take advocacy steps? I once had a manager who was very smart about these items, and she used to say to me, you have to be like water and find the crack. And advocacy is very much like that. So sometimes it's a matter of where do the opportunities lie? Where is their appetite, either socially or legislatively, for us to advance a topic. But all of these things sort of feed together. Hearing from you, understanding what matters to our affiliate members is really important to us, and it's definitely going to shift how we think about where we look for those opportunities. So here's what happened at the convention. At the convention, people actually were so excited, they wrote comments. We had about 260 people, I want to say, in the room, which included staff and all kinds of other folks in the room, and 241 people filled out their number one topic. So that is an extremely high rate of return, and we were really happy with the engagement. People really got into the activity. It was really great. One of the best comments, I thought, was, can we get a direct line to Ruth Balzer? For those who aren't familiar, she's a rep from Newton and has a long history of filing legislation that impacts the mental health system. And the other one was, all of these are compelling. It's hard to pick one. I totally get that. But for us to, if we start to have too many votes, like if we allowed you to do a first and a second, we might never get to enough of the data crunching would probably crush us. It's an interesting idea to think about in the future of allowing people to pick more than one, but for this pass, it's going to have to be just one. And here are our results from the convention. The number one thing by almost 50% was housing. And housing isn't something that the NAMI Mass Advocacy team has traditionally had a lot of information about, and we have taken this to heart, and we're now trying to find partners in this space where we can collaborate and support their efforts. We're trying to understand more about what is out there, what the gaps are in the system, and where might there be opportunities. So whether or not this becomes something that is actionable for us is still open, but we've taken this input to heart to go out and learn more about housing and what we might be able to do. And these are sort of the top 11 things that we heard at the convention. So I'm going to go through now the activity resources that I'm providing as part of this webinar. The first one is the roll sheet for the facilitator and the timekeeper, along with the suggested topics for participants. So let me just pop that to the front, which is this. So it does say table instructions. It's actually group instructions, but we did it at tables at the convention. Choose a facilitator and a timekeeper. This first page is, you're going to want one for everybody in the group. And for the second page, which is details of what the facilitator and the timekeeper do, 1 or 2 per group will be plenty. So you're going to choose a facilitator and a timekeeper. Here's your printout of the question. What is the one thing you would like to see changed about the mental health system in your community or the state of Massachusetts? They're going to write their answer below. That's why everybody gets their own sheet. They have some space to write down here. And after everybody's done writing, they're going to have 3 minutes to share their remarks, as we talked about. Only one person speaks at a time, and there should be time for group discussion at the end. And to remember to fill this out and return it to the facilitators running things. Now, here are the 15 topics that we used as the seed example topics at the convention. You can use these or not. You can, if you know that there's certain things that are of greater interest in your affiliate, you can change these before you hand it out. This is an editable document, and you can use it in any form that suits your affiliate. This isn't, these are the only things you can choose between. People should add anything else that's not on the list. This was just meant to help people get going. So this list was collated from input from some of the affiliates and some of the affiliate leaders, from the advocacy team and from NAMI Mass staff, but they are not carved in stone. You can customize these to your heart's content. And then the second page of this handout is the roll sheet. So as I said, 1 or 2 per group. And this has the details. So the facilitator will welcome everyone, will explain how it's going to work, will read out the question, will keep the silent time, will ensure that there's no crosstalk. That's a big part of the job for the facilitator. If someone can't resist during that 3 minutes, the facilitator should remind people. And when the timer has gone off, the facilitator gets the person to wrap up and has to be the gatekeeper and move on to the next person. And then also the facilitator can run sort of that discussion time. If the discussion doesn't happen naturally, there's a couple of seed questions you could ask. What did you notice as you went around the group? And did any themes emerge? And then the facilitator should ensure that everybody fills out the form and collects the forms and turns them in. The timekeeper keeps time, 3 minutes for each person, give a 30-second warning, and make sure the facilitator knows when time is up. So unfortunately, there's no one on the call right now, so we can't ask for questions. Oh, right, I need to take you through the spreadsheet, sorry. Here's the spreadsheet has, this first sheet is topics from the spreadsheet. So this matches, and I recommend that if you change the topics, that you seed your spreadsheet with the topics from your sheet, because it'll go much faster. And this is meant for you to just, manually count them up, and in that count column, put in the data. In order to create a chart, you would sort your topics by the number of votes. Here are the number of votes we had at the convention, so you can actually see that data. And so I sorted them by the highest number of counts, and that's what helped me produce this chart. If folks are not comfortable with those second two steps, meaning manipulating the data in order to create the chart, that's fine. You can just send me this first sheet filled out with your count, and I can do it. It's really literally a 1 or 2 minute job for those who are familiar with Excel. But if you're not that familiar with Excel or making charts, that's perfectly fine. You can just send me your counts, and I will do that. And it's my intention to create a chart similar to this, but we're going to have color coded for each affiliate. So the blue will be the convention, presumably, but then each affiliate we're going to have labeled, and we're going to see where each affiliate lands, and then I'm going to have a general chart that collates all of those values. So those are the two primary handouts that we're providing to support you in doing this activity. So Larry, I know you were on the call last night. Did I miss any big questions that people asked that I should include now in this question and answer section?
Well, the questions are still there. Let's just quickly take a look at them, okay?
Okay, you need to speak louder.
Okay. I think there was one question about the time an affiliate submits their information to when some final results will be compiled.
Well, it's going to depend on what the other affiliates do. I'm going to keep compiling it in real time.
Yeah.
There was another question of people like, what's the time limit for doing this? I would encourage people to do it sooner rather than later, because the sooner your voice is heard, the sooner it becomes an actionable voice. But there is no time limit. So if your annual meeting isn't for a couple of months and you want to do this as part of your annual meeting, that's perfectly fine. I will be collating the results as I get them in. So if you're interested in seeing how you compare to other affiliates, just let me know when you send me your spreadsheet, and I will return it to you with the information as soon as I have a chance to collate it. I would think it would never be more than a week from the time you send it to me.
Okay. I think you answered all the major questions. And if people have additional questions that are viewing these PowerPoint slides, which we're going to post to the NAMI Mass website, can you is your email address here so they can send you an email address?
It is. My email address is in the slides, and everyone will get a copy of the slides.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Monica.
Then no, I'm going to move on to the next part of there is another part of the webinar
okay.
that I'll move on to that. Other stuff, as I like to say, these are my technical terms. Several people have had questions, and I wanted to take this opportunity to address them about what is an affiliate advocacy rep or an advocacy affiliate rep. As I'm sure most of you know, as part of reaffiliation, NAMI National requires that each affiliate have an advocacy representative. This was part of the reaffiliation standards of excellence. We've crafted this job description where the level of effort is 1 to 2 hours per month. That's going to vary, and it's going to vary probably pretty dramatically. In other words, when we're in the heat of the legislative cycle and there are multiple opportunities to contact legislators for co-sponsorship or opportunities to give testimony or the budget process, we might be looking for more assistance during that time period, which tends to be sort of the March, April, May, June timeframe each year. And then it's going to be a lot quieter other times of the year. But it, advocacy is not just legislative, but we sort of understand the pattern of legislative advocacy better than some other things. So consider that 1 to 2 hours, an average, and that there might be more in the springtime in particular. And the core responsibilities are to do things like watch this webinar or participate in the live webinar, and forward action alerts and help us get the word out so that people know when there are hearings to attend to. Help your people and your affiliates when it's time to send an email, send those emails forwarded, etc. Bring local advocacy issues to our attention. So, for example, running this activity and then bringing that information back to us would be one of those things. And we hope that you'll assist in nurturing local legislators and champions and your local grassroots advocates, that you'll become a sort of a go-to person in your community, and cultivating relationships with people like your government officials and possibly the media. And in that vein, we have I think it's 24 new reps and 6 new senators in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it's a great opportunity to reach out and connect with new legislators, send them a welcome note and congratulate them on their election, and find opportunities to meet them. You do not need to plan to go to the State House. They should be out in the district. They should be around town. You can even call them and introduce them to NAMI. Share your story where appropriate. Tell them about our Advocacy Day on April 8th. Invite them to our walk on May 11th. When you tell them about NAMI, you can tell them about all the great programming we do, how we have family-to-family and family support groups and peer-to-peer and peer support groups and presentation programs like In Our Own Voices, and classroom, school-based programs like Allies for Mental Health. It's not just about what are we advocating for, it's also who we are and what we do and why NAMI is here and what NAMI has meant to you. Somebody asked me last night in the webinar whether, you should only do that with new legislators. And I said, no, feel free to do it with all legislators. But I do have, following on here, the list of new legislators. I got a ton of help from Teresa Cardosi. I cannot tell you how much help she gave me. It's completely a manual process right now to figure out both who the new legislators are and what NAMI affiliate they are associated with. I've been notified that there might be some mistakes here. The districts don't overlap nicely with affiliates, so if there's something wrong here, I apologize, but we did do our best to try to figure out which affiliates went with which legislators. Our legislative districts don't exactly match our affiliate boundaries. So I used italics for legislators that we believe are in more than one NAMI Mass affiliate. So if you are in an affiliate and your legislator shows up in italics, please consider coordinating with the other affiliates that have the same one. I tried to put them on the same slide, but that's also not 100% of the time. So this was a best effort, but certainly less than perfect. So I'm going through these so that you can read them, but you'll also get the slides, so don't feel like you have to scribble everything down. But of course, everyone's watching this on a recording, so you can also hit pause if you do want to scribble them down. And these are all the legislators that Teresa and I were able to find. Shout out to Lori Krinsky as well, because she tipped us off to Ballotpedia, which was a great resource for building this out. And then I did want to share that we are planning 2 future webinars at this point. Probably for the end of February, we will be doing something we call State House 101. Lori Krinsky and I did a presentation at the convention If you attended that, this is the same presentation, so you don't need to plan to attend the webinar. But we will be doing a live webinar of that, most likely the end of February, and are planning to have a recording that we'll put up on the website. And then we are also planning an Advocacy Day preparation webinar with the idea that educating people about what we do on Advocacy Day, what's expected of them for Advocacy Day might increase our turnout. We do preparation for Advocacy Day, and we do help people through the day, but that's once you're already at the State House. So the idea of this is to encourage people to feel confident that it would be worth their time to sign up for Advocacy Day. And then the other things that are happening in advocacy land right now is the Advocacy Day, save the date, is April 8th, 2019. We're looking for speakers to join family-to-family classes. I believe it's class 11 where the topic of advocacy is covered, and we've heard a few times that some of the teachers would like to have someone from our local NAMIs to come and speak about our advocacy efforts and answer any questions about local advocacy. So if anyone is interested in volunteering to be sort of on a list of potential speakers that would be willing to come to a family-to-family class and speak for about 15 minutes, let me know. And then I wanted to let people know that the NAMI Mass website is undergoing an update, and there are going to be new advocacy pages, and the links to all these webinars will be there. And also, I have plans to create a NAMI Mass Advocacy newsletter that will be different from news you can use, that will be a separate sign up, and will actually be a little bit more more in the weeds on advocacy topics. So it's really for people who have a deeper interest in advocacy. So for example, there's news about coming from the federal level about the IMD exclusion and Medicare Part D prescriptions and some really gorpy advocacy topics. So I will be including those, as well as information on all hearings that are upcoming around legislation we care about. And I would have included the list of all the new legislators if we had had such an advocacy newsletter today. So I think that was everything. Yep, there was time for questions here too, but I don't believe there were very many questions about in this section. And Larry, unless there's something else, are we ready to wrap up the webinar?
Yes, I think, thank you very much. We're going to, these are posted on the website, and we'll post the other ones, the future ones, also on the website, right, Monica?
I did forget one thing.
Okay.
When contacting your legislators, there's another handout that comes actually from NAMI National. This was part of the advocate written by Hannah, who is actually our regional person from NAMI National's advocacy team. And I'll be sharing this as well with some tips about how to talk to and connect with new legislators. Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much.